Okay, this is my answer to the Media AS coursework question 1 about the conventions of magazines and how I've applied them to my music magazine. First of all, my masthead. It's written in a large font in comparison to the rest of the text on the page, and I think it's quite eye-catching and good for the audience. The name of my magazine is Trend because it's linked heavily to online features and websites such as Twitter, where you can hashtag important things and they will trend on Twitter. So hopefully a lot of Twitter users will read my magazine because of the heavy link. Secondly, the model. It's quite conventional that it overlaps the masthead. It's more conventional in the most bigger magazines such as NME, and it sort of gives that professional look to my magazine. The hat also matches the colour scheme of maroon. I intentionally did this by asking him to wear that hat on the photo shoot, and I think it works quite well. It looks good. Also, the model's making eye contact, which helps to draw the reader in. If they see that on the start and the cover page of the magazine, I'd like to think that it'd intrigue them and want to carry on reading the rest of the magazine. Secondly, the cover lines also match the colour scheme of maroon, and I think that gives it that more eye-catching, pleasing look. Also, they don't go over the face of the model, which I think is important to, it doesn't create a barrier between the audience and the model, and I think it works well. It goes over the torso because it's quite unconventional in the sense that it doesn't go across the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the page as they do on other magazines, but I think it works quite well. I've put emphasis that it's the first issue by using a sticker, so that I like to think that it would intrigue people, a newer audience that might not normally buy magazines such as this, because it might sort of be a landmark issue and go down in history. I've also used conventional features such as the date, website, price, and barcode, just to fit the conventional aspects of music magazines. Plus, I think it looks quite good actually. One thing I don't really like about the front cover is that I had to use a transparent banner behind the cover lines. I didn't want to do this initially, but I had to because the colour of the text didn't quite match with the clothes that he was wearing, and looking back now, I probably could have asked him to wear different clothes on the photo shoot so it would have worked, but overall I think it still looks quite good, and I'm quite pleased with how it's worked out in the end. Moving on to my contents page, I've reversed the colour scheme so that the masthead Trend, it was maroon on the first page and then white on the contents page, and I think it sort of creates the difference between them, and I think it looks quite good actually. It's conventional in the sense that I've used two columns to display the text, and also I used bigger numbers, so it's easier to understand and find where you want to read, and then you can carry on and find that in the magazine quite easily. Another conventional aspect is that I used another image of the model, so it would link to the main feature article within. The model himself is making eye contact and is laughing, which may persuade the audience to read the interview, because it may sort of create the tone that it'll be a fun interview and quite informal and quite fun to read. Also, I used the editor's message to link to the sticker on the first page that will be the first issue, and it's sort of important to buy this issue because it will be a landmark, hopefully historical magazine where hundreds will follow, so you'll want the first one. One thing that I don't quite like about the contents page is that I wanted more photos of gigs and music artists to put on it, which could be other articles within the magazine, but I'm quite satisfied with you filling the space with the editor's message, because I think it works quite well and it links within the cover page. So I'm not too downhearted, but I think it would have been possibly better if I could get some photos of music artists to put on the front as well, on the cover page, sorry, on the contents page, sorry. And finally, move on to my double page spread. The font of the text at the top, the Callum Ford Talks, the Talks is written in a sort of graffiti style, which I think could represent his background. He's brought up like every other regular teenager, is no different to any of the audience, which might intrigue them, because they might think that he was more higher up in the class, quite upper class, to get into the music industry and break through so successfully and quickly. So I think it's good and it fits the conventions of a magazine because it's quite different and it stands out and it's unique and it's quite eye-catching. I use the rule of thirds in my photography, which is quite conventional in more professional magazines, to create the effect that I could lay the text on images on the left-hand side quite effectively and quite easily, so it's quite easily read. And also the image itself, it's of the model looking to the right-hand side rather than directly making eye contact, which is quite unconventional, but I think it works quite well, especially after it's been photoshopped and brighter and the contrast is more better. I used a quote as the tagline from the question and answer, an eye-catching quote, one that's quite interesting, which might, draw the reader in if they're flicking through the pages on the shelves and they see that. It might interest them to buy it and interest the audience to read on. It's conventional because I used a drop capital to start the text and I used the 8-point font throughout, and it's good because it allowed me to put more text onto the page, which may interest the readers. What I like about the double page spread is that the model is looking away, as I mentioned before. Although it's unconventional, it creates a sense that he's thinking deeply about some lyrics, or reminiscing about his career so far, how quickly he's been. So it might help interest the readers or the audience to carry on reading the interview. Okay, so that was my answer to the Media AS coursework question 1 about the conventions of a music magazine, and thanks for listening.